Welcome back, everybody, to another League of Inches podcast. This one's a really special episode. Really looking forward to this one because it's a brand new series that I've created on the page. And it coincides with pretty much, I feel like the world is growing when it comes to the content creator space. And there's so many pages out there, so many people doing what they love and what they're passionate about, which I absolutely love. I love to get behind as many people as I can. And I thought it was a good way to sort of start interviewing some of these people that you probably know of if you've been living under, hopefully you haven't been living under a rock, you especially know about this guy I'm about to bring on. But there's so many people when it comes to YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, the TikTok, the likes, everyone doing such great work promoting the game that we love. Obviously, at the start, there'll be a big focus on the rugby league side of things, being a rugby league page myself, but hopefully we can grow this out to become something a little bit bigger with the content creator side and really get to know a lot of the content creators out there. But the one today, really, really special. I've got Blaze from BKR Sport on. Everyone knows this guy. It's basically world famous. I'm going to go out and say the BKR Sport channel. Blaze, how you going? I know it's been a massive week and weekend for you, coming off live streaming every game on the weekend. So, how's the come down today, and how's things?
Yeah, good man. I appreciate that. I don't know if I'd say world famous, but we're doing our best for the game. We've been doing it for quite some time now. So no, I appreciate the support, obviously, and people who do enjoy what we do put out there. But no, obviously, yeah, it is quite tiring doing all the streams and whatnot. I think on the weekend we had 2 streams on Friday night, and then Saturday we had 4 streams. This is all pre-season, and then that finishes like 10:30, and then you've got a bit to do afterwards. You wake up 5:30, you start that World Club Challenge between Wigan and Penrith, and then you've got to wait a little bit, and then you go 2 more games, and gee whiz, it's definitely been a little bit tiring, but that's what we love. We love talking about rugby league and love getting into it. So, whatever we can do for the game, the better.
Yeah, and that's just a little bit of an insider into the content creator side of things. It's not always easy, but it's definitely something that I know we're both very passionate about. We absolutely love, so we wouldn't change what we're doing at all. We will get into that side of things a little bit more. The other thing that I think everyone knows by now, and if you're obviously watching on YouTube, by looking at a massive Gold Coast Titans fan, the biggest Gold Coast Titans fan I think that exists. The drum, if you watch or go to the games live, the drum's going off, and Blaze is there singing loudly and proudly. I want to ask you, first of all, go into the Gold Coast Titans side of things, and just ask you, how long, obviously, have you been a Titans supporter? What made you become a Titans fan? And just delve into that a little bit with you.
Yeah, so obviously the Gold Coast has been around since 2007, and I was actually born in Cogra, and I was there for 2 weeks, so I have no kind of like correlation with New South Wales before anyone starts saying, "Oh, you should be a New South Wales fan." Nothing to do with where you're born if you moved up at 2 weeks old. So then I got to Brisbane, and I was there for quite a few years until I was like 12 or whatnot. And then as I moved to the Gold Coast, obviously was when the Gold Coast Titans did actually come into the competition. And I just kind of found myself with them. Like I could have easily become a Sharks fan because my mum's from Cronulla, or a Manly fan because my dad's from not from Manly, but he's a Manly fan. And then I also obviously could have gone the Dragons because of where I was born. And I was living in Brisbane. So I could have easily become a fan of any of those teams. But as we moved to the Gold Coast, I just found myself in the club, man. I decided to go to a game once. I can't remember. I think this was actually the first game that I went to by myself was 2010, which was our best year, actually. So we went, I think it was against the Raiders in round 1, and I went in the Legion at the time. It's the front line now, but because the club has taken the name, which we're very happy to give them, because that means that they obviously respect what we do. And I went into the front line and met a few people, one by the name of Rhonda, and she welcomed me in. And, I found myself within the club. I found myself within that group and just fell in love with the team, man. And yeah, it was just as a young kid who kind of felt like a little bit of an outcast at school, like a lot of people do, the people that I met. And that's why I love the community. That's why I'm all about the Gold Coast Titans as a whole is the name that represents where we're from and represents the people that, the baristas when they make our coffee in the morning, or the theme park attendants, or the people at the beach, or surfers all the way down Coolangatta, down Coomera Way. It represents everybody, right? So that's what I love, because I found myself through the community vibe in this club. That's why I really focus on our community as a whole.
Yeah, no, I love that about you as well. And there's something that I don't think anyone can take away from you is your passion for the Gold Coast Titans. And the one thing I really, really respect from you, and I don't know if I actually told you this yet. We've never actually met in person, but we've spoken a fair few times online, etc. And crazy because we live basically in the big Gold Coast. It's actually a lot bigger than you think when you actually live here and
so
realize.
Bro. I was actually having this conversation the other day with someone. I was like, oh, I think it was my roommate. We were talking about, like, Brisbane is, although you have your west and your north and whatnot, it's still really condensed in the centre. Sydney's kind of the same. Melbourne's the same. But Gold Coast is long, man. So there's so many different people from like north to middle to south, and they all act very differently on the Gold Coast, which is quite funny. So it's just such a big place.
Yeah, no, I agree. The thing I like about there is passion there, and it's so passionate. And I love that. But you're also not one-eyed with your views as well. Like if you need to call a spade, you will say that. And that's what I really like about you. I know there's a lot of fans out there that no matter what their club does, they'll always have the positive view around it. And I know that there is times where it can hurt you to say some of the things you may have to say about the club. And you love some of the most of the things that come out about your club as well and what they're doing at the moment. But I really love that about you, that you're not afraid to hide anything as well. You'll always let the viewers in, let your BKR Sport community into your life and your love for your team, which I think is just a credit to you as well and what you do.
Yeah, look, I appreciate that, man. It's not easy. I can tell you, like, everyone would obviously have seen the reaction that I had with the Dolphins game. That was quite emotional. It is. Look, I'm always happy to say it how it is. With that being said, like, obviously, it is my club. I also know a lot of these boys, and also I don't want to really go against my club. So I tell people all the time, like, for example, in my preseason predictions video, it probably would have come out by the time this comes out. I'm putting the Titans into the top four. Like, I'm going to put them in fourth. But I'm also going to tell you guys that doesn't necessarily mean that I actually genuinely believe it's going to happen, but I'm going to back my team into that point and say, listen, I'm not going to ever tip my team out of the eight. I'll never do that because then I'm going into a season with a negative viewpoint, and I would never put that onto myself because I know what can happen. I'm quite realistic. I know that we could hit top four with the team that we have, but I also know that we could be bottom four because we've had a long history of, falling away and just disappointment, right? So I'm very well aware of our situation, regardless of what people say. But yeah, look, I do my best to open up, man. Like it is, I don't think that people enjoy if you're just bland and basic and just kind of say what they want to hear. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be someone who disagrees with you regardless. And, I've spoken about this with my mate Clarky before, Dane, and I've said to him, like, listen, man, they're gonna hate on you whether you say something positive for the Titans or you say something negative for the Titans. And you're a Titans fan, so you may as well say the positive because either way, you're gonna cop the hate. So that's my kind of thought process, and that's my kind of ideology, that I'm always as honest as I possibly can, because regardless, there is just going to be people who disagree with you. So I may as well support my team throughout.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned there, I have written a couple of things, but most of it I just want to go off the cuff with. I want to talk about the journey for yourself about being a Gold Coast Titans fan, and the journey that it's been for the Gold Coast Titans as a whole, because from an outsider's point of view, I've always had a soft spot for the Titans. Like, I don't know what it is, but I think since I've moved up, I've been up here for 6 years now. I have noticed, especially the last I'd probably say 3 years, and there's been a real big community stranglehold with the club, and actually community I'm starting to feel is really getting around the club, which I'm starting to like, and it's just getting stronger. But there's definitely been some years where it wouldn't have been easy being a fan. There's definitely been some tough moments. Can you let us in a bit? I know you've obviously spoken about in the past the emotional side of things, and I think that's it. Just shows again the passion side of things for yourself. But let us in, because obviously you trying to create content as well and backing your club week in, week out. There must have been some hard weeks there for you.
Oh, for sure, man. As I said, I was going to games on a very regular basis from the start of 2010. And I didn't actually create YouTube or social media or anything like that until 2015. And that was actually my first couple of vlogs were like Manchester City vlogs and playing FIFA and whatnot. And then 2016, obviously the Titans. But, there's been a lot of disappointment throughout the years of the Titans. The only real kind of happy moment that we've had would be back there in 2010, or when we obviously beat the Warriors for our only finals win, mind you. People don't really remember that, but that was our only finals win that we've had. And then 2016, we got into the 8, but it wasn't too crazy. At the time, we thought it was good, but it wasn't too crazy. And then 2021 happened, and that was amazing to win that game over the Warriors 44-0. Still had to rely on a few other teams losing. And then obviously the absolute sheer heartbreak from Patrick Herbert not passing the ball, and then we're getting knocked out. So yeah, look, I agree with you in regards to the community vibe. Like, I think that people are starting to really, and that's kind of the purpose of what I've said and what I'm doing. People have started to understand that we've all gone through the tough times together, and we've all gone through this real compact kind of heartbreak in these last 15 years. And you've got other teams like the Rabbitohs and Parramatta and all these other clubs that have been together for a very long time, but they've also got success in the past that they can kind of rile behind and get themselves up behind. The Eels, even though it was 38 years ago, they still won 4 premierships in the 80s, right? So they can still say, hey, listen, we've got this. Very easy to kind of come back at them and say, well, how many spoons have you got? But the point of the matter is that they've still got that success behind them. So I think that in recent years, Titans fans are starting to realize, one, we have a small fan base, but a really passionate fan base with that. The people of the Gold Coast, that's why I do a lot of my vlogs. And a big reason as to why I started my vlogs is to show off our community and show off kind of the people that don't get seen. I'm just a face for what people don't know exists, because a lot of people say the Titans don't have fans. And I know for a fact that we do have a large amount of fans who love this club, man. They love this club. But they're now starting to fully appreciate and understand that by coming together and kind of being really, really close-knit, it really does help each other out mentally, emotionally, and all that type of stuff, right? So, yeah, I love our history in the sense that it has brought people together so close. It's not easy to say that, considering how much we've sucked in the last 15 years, but it will be so much more worth it when we win based off of that.
Yeah, and the thing that I really appreciate with Titans fans, and I always look at, and whenever I hear people sort of try and diss Titans fans, etc., I always say to them, think about the other clubs in there, as you said, that have had years and years on the Titans when it comes to history and the like. If a team there has a bad probably 2 to 3 years, like look at the Tigers, for instance, at the moment, they've struggled over the last probably 10 years, and their fans have almost vanished. Like, there is a lot of Tigers fans still in the game, but there's not many turning up week to week when it comes to their home ground, etc. And you start to realize how much that sort of on the field really impacts the fan base. But what I like with the Gold Coast Titans side of things and their fans is, as you said, like the finals and that, the success hasn't been there, but the Titans are still turning up. And one thing I'll tell you now, I love going to the home ground. I love going to Seabus to watch games. I actually think it's it's the most underrated league stadium that we've got. I love it. You're always, wherever you sit, you're basically in on the action.
I'll just reply to that and say the reason why people underrate it is because they see the Titans name, and then because the Titans haven't been good, they think, the stadium's not that good. And they've probably stayed in Sydney or Canberra or New Zealand, or actually not New Zealand, because every New Zealander fan comes over to Seabus when we play the Warriors. Every single person of the population of Auckland is at that game. So, I think that people look at the name and say, it's the Titans, and then they look at the stadium and they just associate it with each other. So, yeah, absolutely, man. But I think in regards to Tigers, the Tigers are a difficult one because they merged 2 clubs that hate each other in Balmain and West. And I don't think that they've ever had those 2 fans really kind of get along with each other, and they still don't to this day. So and I still think that there is a great amount of the Tigers fans are very similar to us in a way. They've still got that success from 2005 and behind. But the Tigers fans, they are very similar in a way that there's nothing really to get excited about, but yet they're still turning up. And it's not a massive amount of people that are turning up, but it's still a real solid kind of foundation. And at the end of the day, success is what bandwagoners turn into the long-term fans, right? So if you've never had a moment to be successful, like the Titans, for example, you've never really had, like, I'm different, and there are a lot of other people who are different, but to have a large fan base, the Rabbitohs have got a lot of history. So that's why they have such a large fan base, because they've got that success in the past that has then built them into what they are today. So, yeah, it's just about, getting that one bit of success, and then our core foundation of supporters will grow.
Have you found, one last one on the Titans before I move over to the BKR Sport side of things, have you found with the Titans and the fans as well, that sort of interstate hatred in a way with the Broncos and the Dolphins, especially being close-ish around and basically your nearest next door neighbors, the fact that the Dolphins are now in the competition and the Broncos are starting to come back from being cellar dwellers, they're now starting to have some success on the field. Do you think that's really brought into the fan base for the Titans becoming much more passionate as well and turning back up and really putting their foot down and saying, we are the Titans. We're here to, where we want to start making waves in this competition?
Yeah, well, we've always been little brother to the Broncos. We've always been the team that their fans pretend like they don't care about us, but on game day, they absolutely do care. You can take my word for it, everybody. They absolutely do care.
You know that.
No, absolutely, man. I'm target number one of that stadium. But, like, us to the Broncos is right now like the Dolphins to the Titans. And the Dolphins are try to say, like, oh, we've been around for longer through Q Cup, so blah, 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 blah. But the Dolphins one is definitely starting to become a rivalry, I guess, because one, we lost controversially last year at Seabus, and two, the one we don't talk about happened at Suncorp. That really obviously did fuel it. So, yeah, that one's definitely starting to build a lot more due to the local area. And with Broncos, it is a very hidden kind of rivalry. But when these two teams are going together, it's going to be, because obviously everyone from Brisbane travels down to the Gold Coast to visit, right? Gold Coast is a better place to live than Brisbane. I'm just throwing it out there. So they'll come down and they'll go to our beaches. They'll see the beautiful areas that we have. And they'll realize, yeah, it's great. They've got a great footy team. But with that being said, we live in a better place. So I feel like their way of kind of getting back at this is by having that better team. And at the end of the day, they obviously have had a better team for a long portion of our existence. However, Broncos fans, the last time we played you, guess what? We beat you at Suncorp. Thanks for coming. So, yeah, look, overall, people can definitely go and roll up behind that. However, it's a bit of a weird one too, because a lot of Titans fans obviously did come from the Brisbane Broncos. And there is also that Queensland mentality of, like, Broncos and Cowboys don't exactly hate each other. They want to beat each other like brothers, but they don't hate each other. Rabbitohs and Roosters hate each other. But that's kind of the New South Wales to Queensland difference. So a lot of people will get behind Queensland teams before they get behind New South Wales teams, which then means that the rivalry isn't as intense. It's just that the Broncos and Cowboys have been around for so long that really is there. It's real solid rivalry. It's one of the best rivals in the game, but the pure hatred isn't there. It's just, I want to beat my brother. So it's a weird one in Queensland, because everyone's just so supportive of the Maroons and coming together as one there, that rivalries aren't as fuel intense. But I don't know. I feel like the Gold Coast and Brisbane one definitely will start to bring in a lot more as we start to rise up the table.
Just on that, if the Brisbane locals can stop coming down to our beaches, that would be awesome, because I'm tired of the M1 getting clogged up at ridiculous hours and for hours on end.
You're not wrong, man. Buddy, it's too busy. Stay there. I was going to say go to Redcliffe Beach, but that's not much. Go to Sunshine Coast, man. Sunshine Coast, please.
It's not doing it for me. I want to start to talk about the BKR Sport, the brand, what you've built. I'm basically going to say an empire. It's just awesome what I've watched from what you've done. And I want to talk about that initial journey, obviously from a fan at the start of the Gold Coast Titans going to the games. And what was there a moment that sort of clicked in your head that you went, you know what, this is what I want to actually start to do. I want to start to become that content creator. I want to create the vlogs. I want to go to the games and really show my passion on film, because I know personally I haven't never done a vlog because I'm too worried about how I'll be perceived, because I used to get very into the games and I was very scared of how I'd look. I've calmed down a bit with age, but I was always very, very nervous with that. But talk us through that initial period for you, that transition from fan to content creator.
It's funny you say that, because Clarkey tried to do that once and he understood how difficult it actually is to put a camera in your face and have all these people around you. So I definitely know exactly where you're coming from there, and so does he. But no, in 2015, I was down there in Melbourne. So I was going to university doing sports journalism at the University of Melbourne, and then also at La Trobe. And I'd been to every home game, obviously, on the Gold Coast while I was young, up until 2014. And then I went down to Melbourne, and I still was flying up for every single home game. And this was before, obviously, YouTube. And I was a big fan of the Sidemen, right? So I liked KSI, Big Star, all that type of stuff. And I was a lot younger then. I was like 19, 20 kind of deal. How long ago was that? 9 years? Yeah, about 20 years old. And I was loving the Sidemen. And I thought, well, these guys are doing this. I may as well just kind of put myself on and do like a couple of videos myself. I want to obviously bring some support for the Gold Coast Titans and show that we do have fans that exist. Because back then, people don't really know this, but back then, there was nothing like this. No one was doing any kind of real content creation at all, especially on YouTube, maybe like Instagram, but it wasn't really like that. It was still like Facebook days mainly back then. So there was nothing like this. And I was just like, I may as well kind of give it a crack and do it for a bit of fun. And I started out doing FIFA videos. And then I was also amongst a group down there, the Manchester City fans of Melbourne. and we went to the pub every single night every single game to watch Manchester City. And they were playing against Real Madrid and Roma in the ICC Cup in a pre-season down at the MCG. So I thought, oh, well, I'm doing FIFA videos and having a bit of fun with that. But now I might actually go and film myself having a few beers, having some fun and showing off what the Australian fans are like for Manchester City. So we went to that, we did that, and that was crazy. And I thought, yeah, let's do Titans in the next year in 2016, or it could have even been late 2015 that I did Titans. I can't really remember. But I do remember that the first vlog that I ever did for the Titans was a massive loss against Melbourne. I think that was in late 2015 or early 2016. It was a massive loss against them, but I wanted to still put that out because it did show that we still turned up. And it showed, obviously, as well, that regardless of where I am, I'm flying up from Melbourne for the game. So, like, if you're on the Gold Coast, you definitely should be going to the game, because if I can do that, then you can do that. So that was my intention always, to show we had fans, and also whilst doing that to, get people who are on the Gold Coast to have a reason to go and get amongst the atmosphere, get amongst the passion, and get amongst the craziness. And, it does take a lot for you to put a camera in front of your face. People don't realize this. They think it's easy. You put a camera in front of your face and you go and talk in front of it. You've got everyone looking at you like you're a weirdo, dude. You've got everyone looking at you saying, like, that guy, why is he talking to a camera by himself? And for a few years, like, I didn't necessarily mind it too much. The issue was when I went to Chicago in 2019, I was vlogging Bulls games. I did like 3 laps around the United Center in Chicago before I would put the camera in front of my face and do an intro. So I'm doing like a whole fitness workout before I can actually put the camera up and say, hey guys, how you going to the BKR Sport? So yeah, it is a real tough kind of thing to get yourself over that kind of hump. It's so easy to do it here in front of a computer, man. Like, it's so easy. There's no one around. Like, I can scream, shout, shake it all about. But once you start screaming and starting chants and getting crazy, people look at you. And it's fine if you're like just not with a camera, but if you've got a camera, they're like, oh, it's one of those social media guys, So it can be a little bit embarrassing, but I don't care at all about that anymore. So yeah, I did that for quite a few years, and I just did it for fun. I wasn't thinking it was going to be a career or anything. But 2020 happened, and that was COVID. So I couldn't get to any games. I remember I went to the Eels Dogs as the first game of the season and vlogged it, but it never came out because COVID just happened too crazily and just threw everyone amok. And then I thought, you know what? Oh, no, what happened? Then COVID happened, and then the whole season got cancelled. And then when they brought it back, I was stuck in Fiji. I was with my mum and my family in Fiji. And I thought, well, I can't vlog it, so maybe I'll just live stream it. Like, maybe I'll just sit there and just talk to people, Back then I had like 2 viewers, 1 viewer, 3 viewers kind of deal. And then, yeah, it's just obviously grown to, what we have now, where we're getting hundreds and sometimes thousands of people watching on. So, yeah, it's a good journey, man. And 2021 was when I thought, yeah, I kind of want to start taking this a bit more seriously now, and, became super consistent. And here we are today, basically.
Do you feel like it took away at the start away from your game day experience, and you needed to find a balance of how to sort of work it out in a way so that you were in the game and also in your vlogs, or you just felt sort of natural quite early on and you could just enjoy the game and do both at the same time? Because I reckon I would feel like I'd have like too much going on at the time. I'd be like sort of in a bit of both, so I wouldn't be 100% in either.
It's a good balance now. Like, I've got a great balance now. Back then, obviously, it was a little bit more difficult to get into. But back then, I was giving it to, if people watch the vlogs, they know Dano, who sits next to me, and he would be the one who would film it. This was before, so he would actually film game footage as well, and then film us and game footage and us, so that I could focus on doing the drums and whatnot, and then I would intersect when I needed to. But then that changed post-COVID, and I started just filming myself. It is very hectic, man. It's not for everyone. Like, especially these are the things that people. They don't understand. Like, I get a lot of messages and a lot of hate sometimes that people are like, oh, why are you so tired? All you do is do a bit of drumming in a game and say a few words. It's like, you have no idea what you're talking about. So not only is it emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially invested from my end. So I'm actually invested in the game, right? You've got the drums that I'm doing. I'm leading the chant. So I'm the one leading kind of the atmosphere. I'm not the atmosphere, but I'm leading the start of it to get everybody else involved in the front line, which then obviously goes around the stadium. So I've got that. I've got the camera. I've got to know when to turn it on, when to turn it off. I've got my emotional investment in the game. I've got people coming up to me. I've got people, screaming at me from other teams, like having a crack at me and trying to get under my skin and whatnot. And then I'm going back at them and they're going back at me. And then, nowadays, I've got, kids coming up and asking for a photo when it's like the 65th minute of the game and it's crazy, it's hectic, it's a tight game. And I've got all this happening. So I've come to get used to it. I understand that it's not for everyone, but I would advise anyone just to try it. If you think that it's so easy, feel free to try it because it is exhausting. And then you get to the end of the game, you've put absolutely everything into it. Or the Storm game where it was like 38 degrees or whatever inside the stadium. You put absolutely every part of yourself into it. You don't stop. And then you lose by like a field goal. And it's just like, or you get pumped. It's like, well, damn, man, like, was that even worth doing that? But like, obviously it is, but you're just so exhausted. I'll come home and I'll just like pass out in the bed, man. I'm done. Like I put absolutely everything I can into it. So yeah, there is a lot of things that are going on. And back then it wasn't as much. Now it is even more. But yeah, it's not for everyone, man. It can get quite chaotic is what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You spoke about the time and how much time it sort of takes. You just spoke about a game day. I actually want to talk to you about basically your week and just how much goes into what you're doing, because I think a lot of people would seriously underestimate the time and effort it takes to not just run the YouTube side of things, the page, constantly organizing what you're talking about, what you're doing on a week-to-week basis. There is a lot more than a lot of people think, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure, man. Everyone looks at the final product. No one gets to see, no one understands how much, and this is for everyone, not just for me, but everyone will always see in every capacity the final product. So they'll see the vlog or, they'll see the stream, but like there is so much that goes into it. Like obviously not getting into too crazy your personal life and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like I'll go to trainings during the week. Like I'll go to every training on Thursday for the boys, that's half an hour away. So, or 20 minutes to half an hour away from me. So that's, an hour return. That's usually on a day that there is a live stream later on that night. But like to go specifically into like Monday is kind of a rest day. But with that being said, I still have to edit the vlog. So the vlog will take about 3 hours to 2.5 to 3 hours to edit because you're putting in music, you're finding the right pieces. You've got so much stuff that you don't need, and then you've sometimes got too much stuff, and then it's quite crazy. So you've got 3 hours that you're focusing on that, and then obviously people don't realize you got to do the thumbnail, you got to do the tags, you got to do the description, you got to share it on all your socials and whatnot. And obviously, as a creator, you want to put the best kind of content out there. So at the time, you've got a little bit of anxiety, like, are people going to like this? Is it going to be good? Like, is it going to be disappointing for them? Or are they going to really like it and enjoy it? That does come into your mind. And obviously, you're also doing that. So for example, let's say, this is actually a big one that people don't recognize. But let's say we get absolutely whooped in a game. I've just flown all the way down to, say, Melbourne, right? And it's a great little trip. But I've flown all the way down to Melbourne. We've done everything. We've gone crazy, and we've lost by like 40 points. You're going to come back, and everybody else can forget about that game. They're like, oh, okay, we'll just move on to the next one. I can't. I've got to go watch myself be sad for 80 minutes. I've got to watch myself be upset. Or like the Dolphins game, for example, right? I've got to watch myself cry on camera and edit it for the next 3 hours, watch myself for the first 40 minutes, get excited, happy, crazy. And the last 40 minutes obviously just go down into a dark, dark, damn well hole. And, I've got everything from that week, and I do that, and then then you get the reaction from it. There's a lot of good people and there's a lot of bad people, but Monday is kind of the rest day despite doing all that, right? And then Tuesday is kind of preparing for the week ahead. Obviously, well, nowadays I'm starting to get back into my fitness as well, so that's obviously adding in another part. And then Wednesday is actually probably more of the chill day, to be fair. But with that being said, usually you're filming videos, you're editing videos, you're thinking about kind of what you can do better, or it's also about booking the flight and booking the accommodation and booking all this kind of stuff for when you're doing the away trip to Leichhardt or Penrith or New Zealand, or like April this year we have 3 trips to Canberra, Townsville and New Zealand. So that's going to be a really crazy month in April as we've got to go everywhere. So while that's all happening, I'm also doing 1 stream on Thursday, 2 streams on Friday, 3 streams on Saturday, and then 2 streams on Sunday, and then obviously 1 stream will be missed alongside the Titans game because I'm there. And then sometimes I'll get a friend of mine to do it. So I've got that thought process, like, please don't say anything stupid and get me cancelled on my YouTube channel while you're doing that, which is Antonio, but he doesn't do that. He's a good bloke. So you got that. And then, and you've got the emotional investment and whatnot. So, yeah, look, not going too crazy in your personal life, but at the end of the day, there is you've got to work out how to do all that and then also have your balance whilst also putting out videos Tuesday, Wednesday ahead of the next lot of streams that go out and whatnot. And yeah, it's a crazy time frame, but people always see the end product.
I want to talk to you about balance and balance when it comes to interacting with your community, interacting with people that love your work, interacting with people that obviously hate your work. The keyword, the haters. I know there's a lot of probably creators out there that have got themselves into some nasty situations over the years, and they've probably not known when to either stop, not known when to get involved, etc. How do you find that? Because obviously, as you said, being so passionate, you probably open yourself up as well to a lot more, I don't want to use the word abuse, but that naturally what would be coming your way from people that I don't agree with it at all, but that's what gets them off for some reason. What do you find is the best way to deal with that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's really difficult, man. I've got a really good support group internally, as in like I've got good friends that I talk to. I've got an amazing mother that supports me every step of the way. I've got my dad as well. I've got anyone. I've got a lot of the boys also support me as well, as in like our team. I'll have a chat to them, and yeah, it's difficult, man. It's definitely something that it's very hard to explain. Like people don't understand that after a game will finish, a lot of the players will, like, let's use Tano and the Dogs, for example. You know, like they will go hard at him and their fan base as a collective will just absolutely smash him, right? And that's through Instagram and whatnot. And then you've got, you know, people like myself who are actually involved in the game, but will cop endless amount of criticism for what happened in the game as if it's my fault, whether that be from some Titans fans, not a whole, some, but then obviously a large range of like people taking the piss out of you, laughing at you. And a lot of the time they'll be like KYS. I'll say that as that so that people don't completely get the full picture, but you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, you'll get a lot of that. And it's very difficult, you know, as an emotional person who is invested and in the game, but also as a human being, it took me a while to really kind of grasp the fact and understand that, and this is something my mum said, is that people see your persona online in regards to this perspective. They don't see kind of who you actually are. They just see what's in front of the camera. So that kind of got me thinking, like, obviously they're seeing like somewhat of an act in a way. Like, obviously I'm not screaming and shouting, going crazy while I'm getting a coffee in the morning. So, you know, people may not like the Titans, which then in turn will then make them not like me kind of deal. And then because I'm so passionate about that, they don't like me, kind of all that kind of jazz. And a lot of people don't like that I'm not supporting their team and will say critical things about their team. And I have also in the last kind of 6 months or so understood that I can be quite antagonistic at times, and I'm very polarizing, but I can be quite antagonistic where like I'll go out of my way to enhance the Broncos rivalry because that's kind of how I feel. But by doing that, it then opens you up to a world of this whole group of people will then hate you, and then it will continue to grow through kind of their hate. So yeah, it's been a lot more of. I actually had a conversation a bit with this about another content creator the other day, like to him. I was talking to him and I was saying, like, I can see that you're going down this direction, maybe kind of like rein a little bit, because with what I did, I put myself into a situation where I was target number one at every single stadium, especially Broncos. You know, Bulldogs one down to the core last year was brutal. That is something I don't wish upon anybody in regards to how I was treated at core. And I've got Belmore in round 3 this year. So, you know, but I'll still go because you have to make sure that they don't think that you're scared, because that sends a bad message that people can scare you away from going to games or enjoying yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, we're just here to enjoy footy. We're just here to have fun and speak our opinion and, you know, really embrace the community. But with that, you're going to get a lot of love and you're going to get majority love, but you're also going to get a great deal of hate from people who are probably leading sad lives. I won't lie to you. A lot of people are probably leading sad lives where they're like, that guy's traveling around Australia. He's enjoying watching footy and I'm going to hate him because I've got nothing really going here. And I've never seen an actual genuine hater who's doing better than what I'm doing. And I've heard that from other people before. And I say it myself, I have never seen a hater doing better than how I am. And I think that's something that people always need to recognize, especially as a content creator, is that if someone's going out of their way to send you hate, if you're successful and you're happy and you're doing well, you don't have the time to go out of your way to send hate to somebody. So that's something to recognize, is that that person has the time to do that, and they're probably just kind of voicing their inner, bad moments onto you to make themselves feel better. So that's why I say don't take too much of that. Understand why you're getting it, which is what I've had to do, but also understand that that's their problem, not your problem.
A hard thing for you as well, that you'd also cop the fans' anger of, say, the Titans beating, let's say, the Broncos one week.
Oh yeah.
Their fans would be frustrated with their team letting them down. So they'd see you and go, "Oh, he was carrying on at the game, blah, blah, blah. You know what? I'm going to take my frustrations out on Blaze today. I'm going to go send him a nasty comment and abuse him." And if you're that sort of fan, like, obviously be proud and be passionate about your fan, your club, but there's also different ways, I feel like, to do it. And you're a passionate man, and you're a very, I guess, dividing content creator when it comes to that side of things, because you're obviously always going to put the Gold Coast Titans first, and that's just natural. I think every single rugby league fan needs to step back and go, they'll always put their team first. They'll anger the shit out of them at times, but we'll always have our team needs best for us. And the thing I always find, and I feel like for my page, as we're getting growing, etc., we're getting more and more comments in. I always always tried my best to try and get back to comments, etc., whether it's good or bad, whether it's agreeing. I always say, first of all, I'm a fan of the game, and my opinion is just as a fan. It's my opinion. You can agree with it. You don't have to agree with it. Just never get personal with stuff. We all can have our opinions on stuff, whether it's a post about the Panthers. Lately, I feel like Panthers fans think I hate them or something. It's not the case. I just have sometimes say about certain things, and you got to call a spade at times.
Mate, every single club will think that you hate them because you'll say one negative thing about them. Like, for example, people have this weird thing that I hate the Eels. I don't actually hate anybody, realistically. The only club I actually hate in the entire world is Man United. I don't even hate the Brisbane Broncos. I just like their fans. But I think that the main thing is that the reason why the reason why I dislike their fans is because a lot of people will come with banter, with pretty harsh banter. And it's like, I can kind of tolerate it from one person, but that person will be like, "Oh, bro, it's just banter. It's just a bit of a laugh and whatnot." But then you've also got to remember that you're one person, and if you're doing it, there's also other people doing the exact same thing, probably even worse than you. Like I said before, a lot of really, really harsh, brutal, negative comments that really kind of go in at you personally. And it's like, then you've got that person and all these people kind of doing the same thing. And then when you kind of bite back at it, then they're like, "Oh, whoa, I'm just having a laugh, man." You're just like, "Oh man, like, you just don't get that. Like, I'm getting this from 50 to 100 people." Like that, again, that Dolphins game, I think was 1,200 plus messages to get back to, from 70% of people who were loving and 30% of people who absolutely hated. So, and I had so much support, and that's what made the bad moment better. But yeah, it's always going to happen, man, especially in Australia. It's always going to happen because Australians will kind of support you all the way up. They'll continue to support you all the way to the top. And then when you're at the top, I'm not saying I'm at the top, but when you kind of get to that kind of big area, they love to absolutely slam you down, tall poppy syndrome. Whilst in America, it's the opposite. They'll hate on you when you're at the bottom, but when you're at the top, they absolutely love you. They say that, "Oh yeah, I was a fan since the beginning," and they'll love you, right? So I think that's unfortunately a thing in Australia that people need to recognize when you're getting into content or sport in general, is that the gamblers will have a crack at the players, and it's not acceptable whatsoever. But it's always unfortunately going to be a thing because people can't control their emotions in that sense, and they can't control, and they do try to make themselves feel better in regards to the unfortunate life that a lot of us do obviously have to go through. Everyone has their mental health and their personal demons and all their struggles, but it's just about trying to, and this is something that I've had to do, control yourself to a point that you don't blast out and take it on anybody else. But at the end of the day, man, it's all tribalism, culturalism, and people love their team so much that they will assume, especially with the Dogs, their fans will treat it like a war. Like, their fans specifically treat it like a war. I don't hate the club, and I don't even dislike their fans. I had them in a higher up of their tier, but a lot of their fans are aggressive, violent, and abusive, and it's an issue. And that's why I've had to kind of organize a few things ahead of Belmore, because unfortunately, there just are a lot of people who want to have that big kind of moment to make themselves feel better. So it's a hard mix, man. It's a very, very hard balance. But at the end of the day, you always need to something that I live by. You always need to focus on the positive and then embrace the positive and feel it and say to yourself that you're going to remember this feeling later on when you're feeling down, so that you remember that positive feeling from before. So that's what I do.
Yeah, I always think, and I live by this, you speak to people the way you want to be spoken to. And I think if a lot more people sort of took that upon themselves and started to act that way, I think it would be a lot friendlier in a way. But again, we open up, as you said, we do open ourselves up to this sort of stuff, and it comes with the territory naturally. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And one thing I always remember is I'm actually not a player. So if I'm getting what I get sometimes and you're getting what you're getting, I couldn't imagine what some of the players get.
Oh, I see it, bro. They get
Yeah.
full on stuff, man. I see it.
It makes me feel a lot real sorry for him. One final thing with the content side of things, I just want you to I want to pick your brain a little bit with some basically advice you've got. I know there'll be a lot of fellow creators listening to this interview, to this podcast, and they're at all different stages of their journey. There'll be a whole different array of people listening. I don't want you to give away your secrets, because that's obviously what you've got that's working for you, and you don't want everyone to jump on to what you're doing and how you're doing it, and that is totally respectable. But there's some little things that you could probably give out to, I guess, myself as well. I'm included in this, and other fellow content creators, about little points that they can get hit and aim for to slowly start improving things.
Yeah, I think it's just about it's not about doing something to be someone. It's about, I started this out because I'm passionate about the game and I'm passionate about what I do and I love what I do, and nothing's changed. Like, obviously, yes, now I'm able to, receive financial gain from what I do, but I've also put a lot of work into it, continuously do, and to be able to create the content that we've now driven ourselves into, you do obviously need that financial gain, but that doesn't mean that was the purpose for it. So a lot of people go into it thinking, I want to be famous, and they would go into it thinking, I want to have money. And what a lot of people don't think about is that I'm taking like 9 years to get to where I am. Like, I did it for a long time. So if you're willing to sit back for like 5 to 10 years, then great. But if you're wanting success now and to feel amazing now and getting money now, then it's just not going to happen. You have to put in time and effort, which then comes from the passion side of things. And don't look at numbers. I've got a friend who started up their like TikTok very recently or something like that. I think maybe late last year. He's doing similar things to kind of what I do with the Titans. And, unfortunately, he was complaining about like a certain amount of views that he'd received in like the first 24 hours or something like that. And I'm thinking, like, if you look at the views, you will always be down. In the off season, I would get like 200, 250, 300 views, which is much lower than what I would normally get. And if I looked at that, I'd be like, well, what's the point of me doing what I'm doing? It will really hurt you and think, oh, I'm putting so much effort into this. Why am I not getting it? But it's because, in regards to that, it's because it was off season. So no one cared about rugby league at that point. But at the end of the day, I just kept doing what I was doing, kept being consistent to show that, one, I'm still alive, people. I am still here. I am alive. And also, two, it shows the work ethic that you're willing to put in the work, regardless of financial gain or fame or notoriety and whatnot. So the main thing is, don't look at numbers and be patient. Yeah. The other thing I would say is be who you are. Like, don't copy me just because you see that I've become or doing successful because of it. Like, I know I'm starting to do stuff at the club, and I know the boys, and I know all these other people, and I've got these amount of subscribers. But at the end of the day, it's not you trying to become me. That's how I've gotten there. There's so many other content creators out there who I do see and I get told about trying to be me. And it's like, you will grow faster if you show the passion that you do, but as yourself, you will grow faster.
Be authentic.
Be authentic, man. Like, I know, yes, I was the first person to start doing NRL vlogs, but I wasn't the first person to vlog. I didn't create vlogging. It was just, I started doing NRL vlogs and I was myself. And then other people have come from there and started doing that themselves too. So it's not about like, oh, I don't want to vlog because I don't want to copy. It's about the person in the vlog. You don't need to put the music at the start just to kind of emulate exactly what I do. You don't need to have this little hype bit, and then you also have the intro, and then you have the music, and then you have the game from there, and then the outro. But a lot of people do kind of take from that and think that that's going to be emulating the success. And it's like, it's not necessarily the case. If you be yourself, people will come to you because they can see the authenticity there. And then in regards to live streams, again, I definitely did not create live streams. Obviously, just decided to do it for the NRL, which is what I love again, and then people then go into that. And I don't think that's kind of too much of a copy kind of thing there, because at the end of the day, we're just sitting down and watching a game. But again, be yourself in that live stream. It's not about trying to be as crazy and loud and passionate as I am. You don't have to be that kind of speed and pace, because not everyone likes it. Not everyone likes the way that I will cover a game. So try and get the other people who don't like how I cover a game, and you'll benefit from that. You don't need to copy anybody else. See what they're doing, acknowledge it, say, that's pretty cool. I'm going to do it my own way, and then do that. So it's all about patience. It's all about passion. It's all about being authentic and being who you are and not copying other people and kind of who they are.
What's your inspiration? What's your drive to keep doing what you're doing and get better and better? Because I got no doubt there's definitely been, as you said, some tough days. There's been haters, there's been everything. And naturally, as a human being, that will get to us. What drives you? What's your inspiration?
Well, obviously, I want to be better for myself, but, I've got my family. I've got a daughter over there in Fiji. I've got my mum who's always been supportive, and I always want to obviously, provide for them and provide a better life for my family. That's obviously what everyone ultimately should be kind of trying to achieve to have a really, positive family vibe and be able to support them. But also it's with the Titans, people have got to remember as well, we have never had a moment on this channel where the Titans have been successful, right? So the drive, and this is what I always get concerned about, right? Like, I've got this drive right now that, and we'll obviously absolutely smash it. And then when we win the premiership, it'll be the craziest moment, probably the number one moment ever in my life. And for everybody else who has invested their time into watching my journey throughout, they will also get an incredibly emotional experience when it happens, because they know what I was like at the start, throughout, and then there, regardless if they're a Titans fan or not, right? It'll be quite an emotional experience for the people involved. So I know that the day the Titans happen to win the premiership will be the craziest moment ever. But then it's kind of like, what next? And this is something that I learned from Gary Vaynerchuk, is that his ultimate goal was to own the New York Jets and buy the New York Jets. And then he said that one of the worst days of his life was actually when he bought the New York Jets. So his goal was achieved, but that was the worst day of his life. And he said that when he does buy it, it will be the worst day of his life. When he does buy the Jets, it will be. And the reason why he says that is because he likes and loves the process. He loves the process of getting there. But then when you get there, it's like, well, what next? What do I do now? That was my whole goal, my whole achievement. So it's like, it's a bit different with the Titans. Like, at least I'll always want to be winning more and more and more. But you do have that kind of crossroad where it's like nothing can really beat that moment, right? So my drive right this very second is to see the Titans become the most successful community and the most successful club in the NRL. Like, that's obviously the drive that I have. And I'll always voice that and always come out against anybody who goes against that. And I'll always be a face for a community that doesn't have a great deal of representation, regardless of the hate that you get. So that's where my drive is: family, and then also seeing that moment.
Sell me the Gold Coast Titans in 2024.
2024 was a fresh start, man. We've never had a professional game-winning, premiership-winning coach like Desi Hasler. Desi Hasler has come in and is the first coach in the Gold Coast Titans history that has already won a premiership in the NRL, and he's won multiple. When he went into the Doggies, he, in 2012, in the first year he was there, took them to the grand final. Yes, they lost. 2014, also took them to the grand final. Yes, they lost. But in 2011, the year before that, 2012 grand final, they won with Manly, right? And also was the coach of a team that won 40-0 against a bunch of cheaters in Melbourne Storm. So Desi Hasler coming in, we all know this Titans club and these Titans players are quality as it is. We know we've got a whole forward pack, which is basically Queensland. We've got backline players to bring with so much speed and so much talent and so much depth in that fullback position, with even Keanu, who can't get in right now, playing for the New Zealand A team. So the point of the matter is that we've got the team there. We didn't actually lose by big margins to the big teams last year. We didn't beat the Broncos, and we're actually really good against the Panthers and the Storm and the Warriors and all those top four teams. We may have lost, but it was just about that cutting edge in the second half. So now that we have Desi Hasler, he comes in, he rips in, he says, listen, boys, this is how we're going to do it. And I know that Desi Hasler, mixed with this young team, is absolutely going to connect with each other, and we're on the up, man. So, I believe in the Gold Coast 100%. There's no doubt in my mind that I believe we'll be top 8, and I genuinely believe that we could be top 4 this year.
I actually think it's the most well-rounded, strongest side and squad you guys have had.
Mm.
I could almost argue since the existence of the Gold Coast Titans, with the quality that's all around the park and the depth that you guys have. I feel like and I obviously haven't been as involved in the club as yourself, but when I look at it and on paper and things like that, there's always used to be a concern for mine with the Gold Coast Titans around injuries and if players are able to step up when you did lose quality. This year, I don't have a question around that at all. Like, I'm more confident than ever. I'm not even a Gold Coast Titans fan that you will be able to cover that. Like, there's going to be players that miss out round one that we're just going to look at it and go, holy crap, like how is that person not playing round one of the NRL? And I always look at that. One of the first things I look at when I do my club season previews and things like that, that's the first thing I look at is depth, because I think depth is such an underrated facet in this game, this day and age. If you don't have the depth there, you're basically screwed. Like, I don't see our hope in hell for you for the year ahead, because it's impossible to get through the year with no injuries or no suspensions and the like. That must make you confident and proud, actually, because I feel like your club is building so well at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think people need to understand that we on the Gold Coast, we've actually provided a lot of talent for everyone, because a lot of talent in rugby league comes from Kebra Park on the Gold Coast, who are now aligned with the Rabbitohs, PBC, who are aligned with us, Marsden, who are aligned with us. We've got the Burleigh Bears and Tweed Seagulls. Burleigh Bears are now with the Broncos. Tweed are with us, and we've got Ipswich now. So the point of the matter is that a lot of I guess it comes from the fact that there's a lot of Islanders in the Gold Coast, and obviously our game is really built around a lot of Islanders being amazing talents from Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, New Zealand, Cook Islands, Papua New Guinea, all these kind of places, right? So it's really good to see that we do have that depth there. The issue with the Titans over time, realistically, has come from our 7 post Scotty Prince. We haven't really had a 7 to really kind of continue. So I think Tanner Boyd has such a massive year to have. He has to have a massive year. And I back my boy in. I know Tan very, very well. I love him. He's a real down-to-earth, kind-hearted soul. And I genuinely believe he will be the 7 this year and be quality. But with that being said, if he didn't pan out, then you got Tommy Weaver. And Tommy Weaver played for the New South Wales under-19s, was incredible against the Dolphins in the preseason. If our fullback goes down, hey, Jaden Campbell's injured. Well, guess what? We've got Keanu Kenny, who played for the New Zealand A's team. We've got in the centers department, Jojo Fafita just played for the Māori All-Stars, and yet he won't be able to get in. You've got Aaron Shupp, who was one of the better centers in the game at the Doggies, didn't have a great year last year. But with that being said, he is still a solid center, and he can't get in. Brian Kelly and AJ Brimson will be there. The wingers are incredible. The depth that the wingers have got. You've got Lofty, and you've also got Phil Samney, but you've got Tony Francis knocking on the door, who scored 3 tries in the Q Cup final. He scored 2 tries last week. He scored and hasn't missed a try besides yesterday. Hadn't missed a try since round 21 of last year in the Q Cup. And he can't get himself in. Ken Mamalo as well there. And the forwards, don't even get me started there. So, yeah, the depth is really impressive right now. We've got some nice schools that are in our system. The only reason that Kebra didn't want to stay was because they wanted us to be only Kebra. And it's PPC is a very great school in Palm Beach. So, no, we'll keep them. And it's unfortunate we have to lose you. But at the end of the day, we're going to keep Palm Beach, Currumbin, and also Marsden. But God help everybody if we had been able to keep Kebra, PBC, and Marsden, because those 3 schools really do, create the quality across the entirety of the NRL. So, look, really, really impressed with our depth. And actually, as we're filming this today, there is a depth video going out for every team and ranking them, and I'll put us in the top 5. So, yeah, happy with it.
I definitely agree with that one. Moving on to the final few rapid sort of questions here as we start to wrap things up. Once again, really appreciate your time for this. First of all, I want to ask you, is there an interview or an interaction with a player over your time that's really stood out to you?
I'll think of a positive
for any
one.
reason.
No, I'll think of a positive one. Everyone who knows my channel knows the one that I just laughed at. But I think that this... Are you talking about on YouTube, or are you talking about in general?
In general, anything. You can do one for YouTube if you want, and then
I'll do
one in general
for
as well.
Both. Yeah, I'll do one for both. So the big one that I think that people won't understand how impactful it is that it was actually Justin Holbrook, the coach of the Titans, before obviously Desi came in. Now, Justin is such an incredible human. We absolutely love him on the Gold Coast. Unfortunately, the results didn't favour him, and that's why we had to remove him. But at the end of the day, I will always have such amazing respect for that man. Now, when you're at training and when you're kind of around a club, you don't that, like, you're still a fan, right? Like, even though I have this social media following and I'm a creator and whatnot, at the end of the day, I am still a fan. I'm not actually working for the club. But Justin, I remember one day, he obviously sees me all the time. I'm talking to him all the time. And one day, it was so simple, but he offered me a bottle of water. Now, when you're down at training, they count the amount of drinks to, like, give them out to players and whatnot and to staff and whatnot. But he just simply offered me a bottle of water. Now, I've never had that offered in general from anyone before, because usually, even my mates at the Titans, like, because obviously it's not really their place to do that. But Justin went out of his way to just simply give me a bottle of water. And I really respect that, because it just showed how down to earth he was, and just showed that he understood and respected me for what I do, and really appreciated kind of my involvement in the club. And that's what he said as well. So that, a lot of people will be like, oh, a bottle of water, like, who cares? You know, but it was the sentiment behind it, that one, he didn't have to do that, and two, the club usually counts that kind of stuff so people can't, but yet he still did that. So that was just a really nice moment there with Justin. In regards to a player, like, on the field, I would say something that is quite positive. I think it kind of in general is always with our boys, though, like the post-match kind of come down. We give each other a dap and a hug and whatnot. You know, doing it with JC is always quite a good moment and all that, and Shuppy last year. I think that it's very difficult across the competition. There was a moment with David Clemmer as well. Like, to go away from the Titans, there was a moment with David Clemmer at Newcastle. And it's like, when you're a fan of another team, the players won't normally they're not kind of inclined to do anything with you on a camera. You know, they don't need to kind of film, because it's like, well, why do I need to impress you? Or just, no, you're not following my team or supporting my team, so they don't need to jump on for an interview. But I remember David Clemmer was so nice, so down to earth. He was just a brilliant bloke, and it was really impressive to see that. I know that Newcastle won by a big amount. I guess if we had have beaten them by a big amount, they probably wouldn't have wanted to do that. But he did. And the same thing went with Will Warbrick, actually, at the Melbourne Storm last year. And they lost that game. So that's even more of a positive for him. But there's no real kind of standout moment. There's always just those little moments that I appreciate, I guess, overall. And when it comes to Titans, it's always just the post-match chatting, because I'll go at the back. And I don't know if I want to say this, because I don't want too many people just like decide to go at the back. I'll say it. So there's enough people there as it is. So I guess there's going to be people that will find it anyway. Out the back is where the players obviously walk out at the end of the game. And sometimes I'm waiting there for like 2 hours. So despite all the game, I'll sit out there for 2 hours and I'll be the last person to leave. It's a lot of effort, and especially after a loss. And sometimes it's really cold. I remember one time last year, it was like 5 degrees or 8 degrees or something like that. And I waited out for hours. And they took so long, man, so long. And Toby Sexton would usually drive me back to my car, because he'd be one of the last ones. But yeah, just like those moments, just having those chilled chatting moments with the boys, saying like kind of what happened, get them next time kind of deal, just the simple stuff. But yeah. And then there was, I've been going on for too long, but there was also one more as well. In Manly last year, after the Dolphins game, we beat Manly. This is actually the number one. Was Tanner Boyd coming up to me and saying, I thought of you immediately after that game. And it was because of that crying moment, like with the tears and whatnot on Instagram. He came up with a massive smile on his face. You can actually see it in the Manly vlog. And he said, I thought about you immediately after that win. And that was that hit me quite hard, especially after the tough week we'd all gone through. Because right after that game, we were messaging each other just how tough that result was. So that one meant a lot. Yeah, Tanner Boyd.
That's special. You mentioned JC there. I just want to have a quick shout out to Jaden Campbell. He was at the game yesterday. I was sitting about 5 to 10 meters away from him, and I watched it. It was before the game, so everyone's warming up, etc., and the like. And he was there, sitting there in the grandstand. Every man and his dog was going up to him, wanting autographs. Yeah. He's the star attraction. He did not shy away from a single thing. And I was anticipating, because I don't know him at all, but I was anticipating he would literally just get up after 5-10 minutes and he'd go and he'd just try and find a place to sort of hide away.
That's not JC, bro.
He loved every second of it. He appreciated everyone. He was welcoming. He was no doubt probably got a bit fatigued by the end of it, the amount of photos and signatures he had to put up with. And
he's used to that by now, bro. He's used to that by now. He gets flooded everywhere. And, obviously his dad's Preston Campbell, right? So Presto, when he was playing at the end of a game, we had to tell him, like, go home. Like, get out of here, Preston. Like, he's just signing everything, taking photos. And JC's obviously taken after that. Jaden Campbell is an amazing bloke, just like his dad. They've got such a great family. And yeah, I appreciate you've said that because obviously, yeah, people can have their misconceptions of players, but yeah, JC is an amazing bloke and obviously comes from a great father as well, in Preston Campbell, who, yeah, like I said, we had to tell Presto, like, go home, man. You've been here for an hour after the game. Get out of here. Go relax.
He's a class act. One that's going to be pretty hard for you to answer on the spot because there's been some pure quality players over the Titans' time so far. I want you to give me your ultimate five-a-side Titans team. So 2 backs, a playmaker, and 2 forwards.
2 backs. Well, I'm going Preston Campbell for one. I definitely have to go the elusivity there of Presto Magic. And I think I'm going to have to go with a Lofiana Khan-Pereira because that pace is just absolutely phenomenal. We saw that in the Eels game yesterday. Like that was just, the way his acceleration is wild. So 2 forwards, you've got to go Dave Fafita. That's just as simple as that. Dave Fafita is one of the best players we've had in our club's history, and he outpaced the entirety of the Newcastle Knights last year in Newcastle, and that's including Callum Ponga, right? So Dave Fafita's got some pace on him, and it's just an absolutely big boy. Another one, like a big kind of forward, like you do kind of want to look at guys like Luke Bailey or Tina Fa'asumalawi or even Luke Douglas, who was a tough player. But then again, in a 5-a-side, you're probably not going that way. I probably would still lean with Tino, to be completely honest with you. Like he still is just the best player on our team. He's a quality player, big time forward, has a bit of pace about him as well, and is Australia, Queensland, everything representative, right? So I definitely wouldn't go away from him. And then in regards to a playmaker, it's got to be between Matty Rogers or Scotty Prince, but I'd probably have to lean towards Scott Prince. Like Scott Prince is the 7 that we always look back on and say he's our best halfback of all time. So in regards to a playmaker, I would go Scotty Prince, then I'd go Dave and Tino, and then the backs were Preston Campbell and Lofiana Khan-Pereira.
Scary talent. And there is definitely even more. You could name probably 3 or 4 very scary sides there.
Yeah.
Any special shout outs you've got when it comes to content creators pages for people to check out, whether big, small, people that you reckon might deserve a bit more love, or people you just want to shout out to that's doing a great job in this side of things?
Well, obviously, I've got to shout out my co-host for the Gold Coast Titans Frontline podcast, which is Clarkey. He puts so much work and effort into what he does, man. People don't realize that he brings a laptop with him to games so that he can, at halftime, put up things and put up posts and whatnot. So he is just always in work mode. And even when I would stay at his place in Canberra, like he would, while we're just chilling after the next day after the Raiders game and we just lost, he's sitting there for like an hour and a half, and he's just going through all his posts for the week because he obviously works as well, right? So he schedules his posts, but he just sits there and he's a non-stop worker, man. So he obviously gets a shout out. Obviously, a lot of the things that I do is with guys like Guru and with these kind of people, but Sports Shed TV do a fantastic job in regards to organising the charity match every single year that Clark and I commentated. They were playing. I would play if it wasn't for my ankle that I broke a couple of years ago. It never really fully recovered, but I am getting scans and stuff now, guys. So maybe in the future I might play it. But yeah, Sports Shed TV deserve a shout out for that one. And on the spot, it's kind of hard because there's so many content creators that you just kind of think of, to be fair. On the spot, I'm trying to think of a smaller content creator that probably deserves a bit of a shout out. A smaller content creator. Jeez, I'm scanning my brain right now. I guess, you know what? I'll go with a guy who does stream as well, like me. He streams. He's a Parramatta fan like you, actually. I'll go TJC Sport. He's a young bloke and he's good for some banter and doesn't take anything too seriously. And yeah, he's a good bloke. So I'll go TJC Sport. He puts effort into his channel. He does Eels vlogs. He does streams as well. So I'll say I'll go TJC. But if I've forgotten to name anyone, which I have, obviously, please don't think that I don't like you. It's just that on the spot, I had to go Clarkey. Yeah. Sports do a great job, and TJC was the first person coming to mind because he's a good bloke.
A quick one for you. You mentioned the charity match, and you're obviously a commentator for that. And obviously with your live streams, is there anything down the track, and this coincides with my final question for you, when it comes to commentary gig, etc., is that something that you'd be open to? Because listening to it, you killed it, and you obviously kill your live streams.
Yeah, look, I love it, man. I absolutely love it because we're getting the people's opinion, and then I'm interacting with the community. They're feeling like they're having a beer and talking with a mate, plus also having all their other friends who they get used to. People love the old slapper, Jay Hayes, Daz, mate. He's always a character, Truckin'. Blitzy, all these guys there's so many regulars. We probably have, 50 to 60 regulars every single stream, or maybe even 80 regulars. And then you'll get like the other 100, 150, 200 that'll just be kind of new people coming in or quiet people. Because a lot of people watch the streams, but they don't actually necessarily speak, right? So I think that I'm always open to something, right? If KO or Nine or whoever kind of came and said, hey, listen, would you like to do this? I wouldn't say no, and I would definitely consider it. The only issue is that the reason why our streams do so well is because we are directly interactive with the people and we're talking to the people. Like Clarky and I did really well in regards to the commentary on the charity match because we do have that good rapport. But with that being said, it's great, but you don't have that difference, the point of difference, where I've got all the comments coming through saying, oh, this team's not doing too well or this team's shit kind of deal. And I'm like, and then I can reply to that and I can defend that team or I can defend that player. Whilst if it's just me, I drive the entire agenda of it. So not trying to put that out there too much into the world, but it's very easy to drive an agenda to you guys if we don't have you in the chat. So I'm never going to say like no overall. I definitely would be intrigued and interested in it. But at the end of the day, I would still want to have some form of way that I'm interacting with the community.
With the BKR Sports, what's your goal for 2024 and into the future? Got any written down that you'd like to crack?
I think that a near-time goal, we just hit 25,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is for NRL content besides Bloke in a Bar. We are the biggest for fan support, I would say. I can't think of anybody who's above us on YouTube for that besides Bloke in a Bar. So, we just hit that one. My goal would probably be to hit 35,000 or so by the end of the year, and I think we'll definitely hit that. It could even be to hit 40, but 15,000 subscribers this year in like a single Australian sport is quite difficult. But, never say never. With the effort and work that we put in, never say never. I think a long-term goal, I used to do all kinds of sport, right? I used to do all like AFL, football, the American sports, all that sort of stuff. And now I'm just focused on NRL because I want to really get that moment with the Titans. But at the end of the day, I would love to like travel around and there's something that I always said at the beginning when I started my channel. I always want to give back. And there's always been one thing that when I have the money and I travel, I want to give back to like a local youth club of some sport, whether it be rugby league or whether it be football or something like that. I want to give back some form of like, donation to a local youth club and go down there, or just something that benefits the game and benefits the community overall, because at the end of the day, that's what we do. That's why we do it. So that's a more long-term goal. I've got big plans in regards to that, but near-time future, it's just to be consistent, so the Titans win and hit 35,000.
You mentioned the YouTube side of things. A quick plug for myself and the page. Everyone knows a small little goal we've got at the moment, try and hit that 1K mark. So if you are listening to this or watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Would be greatly appreciated. Finally, Blaze, once again, thank you for your time. Just want to let everyone know where to find you if they haven't done so already, which I will be shocked with. Just give yourself a little bit of a spruik. Advertise yourself.
We're on BKR Sport. BKR Sport. Yes, a lot of people say BKR Sports or BK Sport or BK or BR. We get it all the time. But BKR Sport on YouTube, Instagram. I try to do TikTok, man. I try. But when you're on YouTube, it's all production. And then Instagram and TikTok is a lot more quicker. And it's really hard to kind of do both. So do forgive me. But I am technically on TikTok, on BKR Sport, YouTube, and Twitter, I guess. But yeah, mainly on YouTube and Instagram there, man. So YouTube is for the production value, the vlogs, the screens, doing different kinds of videos. And then Instagram, you kind of just look at my story. And I'll also post before and after a game so you can see how I'm feeling before and after a game.
Glad you mentioned that TikTok and YouTube thing, because I find it so difficult. I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks that, trying to keep up with both platforms. Blaze, thank you so much for coming on, being the inaugural interview for this content creator series, which I'm looking forward to chatting to. Plenty more to come, but you were the first one off the rank, and you put some faith in myself, which I really do appreciate. I know you're a very, very busy man. Guys, again, make sure you go and give him some love. BKR Sport, do the likes, subscribes, do the follows, all the love to give these days on the social media side of things. So Blaze, thank you. Good luck to your mighty Titans in not just 2024, but the future as well. I will be secretly riding their train as well. I'll be at a few of their games this year as well. So have a great afternoon, and thank you once again for joining the League of Inches podcast.
Appreciate you, bro. Have a good one and good luck with your channel.
Thank you.